Well, hello and welcome to the show. Glad you've joined us. You know, for the last couple weeks we've been talking about body control, how to move our horse's shoulder, how to keep him soft, how to get him to control his emotions. This week we're going to be talking about controlling our horse's hindquarters, how to do it and why to do it. All that's coming up right here on Discovering the Horseman Within.
Gonna take a ride on one true horse.
For years, we taught everybody how to do a one-rein stop, how to take the horse's nose and just pull it to your knee and crank his hind end around until the front end stops moving and eventually the hind end stops. Really, that's a kind of hindquarter control, right? But what it really has done is teach us to get our horses unbalanced. Is it a good thing to do in an emergency? Sometimes. Sometimes it's the only thing you can do. But it's really not developing hindquarter control. So what I like to do is I like to get my horse moving off of my inside leg and away from it with his hind end moving around his front end. To do that, I want to look over my shoulder at his tail until the hind end steps over a little bit and then ride off. Look over my shoulder, take my leg back below my hip, bend the horse until the front end stands relatively still but not still. The hind end moves around, release, and ride off. I don't need him to stand rock solid still on the front end. In fact, I don't want him to, because I don't want him to put all of his weight just on his front end. Look over my shoulder, move that foot back. Looking over my shoulder helps position my body. Okay, that hind end steps around there, release. Now, am I going to look over my shoulder the rest of my life? No. I want you to do it a few times today to get where you understand how to put your body in the correct position. Once you've done that, you don't need to do it anymore. Then you can just ride along, move your foot, and push this horse's hip around. You're looking for his hip to move around his front end and his front end to stay relatively still, right? Picking up and down, but not making a big circle. When the horse is moving both ends or both directions nicely, then I'm ready to start picking up on my second rein. Now my second rein straightens out the horse's body, takes away that extra bend, and makes things quite a little more difficult. So as I ride forward, I put my foot back in the same position and ask that horse to move his hind end a little bit and then ride forward and do it again. Don't ask for a full 360. Get a step or two and ride out of it. Pick up on the other rein, soften his nose, put your foot back there in that same position, move the hind end around a step or two and ride forward. What am I really looking for? Well, a finished turn on the forehand to start with would be keeping this horse relatively straight, relatively soft, and move that hind end around. Keep the front end alive. There we go. And ride out of it. Okay, when that horse starts nickering like that, you know what he's saying? I'm lonely. So you need to let him know you're up here. Ask more of him. Ask him to work a little harder. Soften that nose, move that hindquarters around, ride out. Now, this is pretty basic, simple hindquarter control. We're going to take it further than that, but not until we have what we want. When I can soften that nose, move that hind end around, maintaining a relatively straight frame in my horse, without him pulling in my hands, then I'll be ready to go on, and only then, okay? You feel this horse, the energy level's coming up. Give him more to do, okay? Same thing we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks. Whoops, right there. The front end started moving, so I just bent him a little bit. I went back to that very first exercise. I kept him on two reins, but I just bent his nose to the inside a tiny bit and said, here, Move your hindquarters over. Move your hindquarters over. Bent him, now straighten him back out. Right there. Straighten him out with your outside rein. Straighten him out with that outside rein. That outside rein is critical. It's an important piece of everything you're going to do with your horse that's fun and pretty. So you want that horse to stay straight and balanced over the bit off that outside rein. Move him around there. Keep that hind end moving. Good. Ride forward. You notice I always ride out of it. I don't, at a training level, I don't do it from a standstill, and I don't stop when it's over. That would be a lot more difficult. If I were to bring this horse around and stop, then he's going to get in the habit of thinking this turn becomes a stop. And so instead of staying really fluid, the turn's going to get slower and slower and more sluggish. By keeping the movement up, he just knows that he gets away from the pressure of my seat and leg when he moves his hind end over. Move that hind end over there. Nice and easy. Ride out of it. That's what I'm looking for. Soften that face. This goes so far in building my lope departures, my correct lead, my lead changes, even my side pass. Everything comes off of him learning to move his hip away from my leg. And like I said to start with, lots of people do this, but they have the horse way over bent. I'm going to be very honest with you. If you're going to ride with me on a 10-year-old horse, and I ask you to stop, and you have to bend your horse to a stop and pull his nose over here, I'm going to be really disappointed, because that's not a broke horse. And when he's 10 years old, he should be getting broke. He's not a trained horse, and when he's 10 years old, he should be learning to be trained. So I want you to start riding this horse straight. That's how you ride. You don't ride with his nose looking at his tail, right? What was the problem we had with this horse a couple of weeks ago? You couldn't keep this horse connected. His nose would flop over one direction and his body would go the other. Now he's starting to understand how to keep his body straight and follow his nose with his body. Now we're getting to where we can actually ask quite a little bit more and make things more difficult for him. So from a standstill, for instance, soften that nose, move that hindquarters around. Move that hind end around. Now change directions, make it harder. Not a big break in between. We didn't stop, we just went the other way. You can start adding levels of difficulty to what you're doing with your horse. One of the things I like to do, I'll trot him around here, soften that nose, take his hips to the outside, let that front end shut down, trot him off. Take his hips to the outside, let that front end shut down, soften that nose, trot him off. Why would you do these things? Because I can, and that's important to me, because I want to know I have that kind of control. Take his hips to the outside, take his hips back the other way. I want to know I have that kind of control. Now, when my horse is really moving his hips good, both directions, then I'm ready to start moving his hips into his nose. Right now, we're giving a turn on the forehand away from his nose. I want to start teaching this horse to move into his nose. I want to start teaching him to move his nose and his hip the same direction. Why would you do that? Because it simplifies my lead departures, it simplifies taking the correct lead, and it really adds to my flying lead changes. And I can, and it's fun, and it adds control. Teaching is probably one of the most joyful things I do in my life. I love to watch people learn, I love to see them change, and I love to see them make life changes, follow their dreams. That's what our apprenticeship program is all about. It's a 3-level program. We start at the apprentice level, we move to journeyman, and we finish at the master certification level. that program is about people achieving their dreams. These people just like you, that's what they're about. They're here learning so they can go home and create a career in horsemanship. What I want to do now is I want to move my horse's hip towards his nose. So I've been taking my horse, take his nose to the right and move his hip to the left. So in preparation, I'm just going to bring him around and bring his nose and release it right there and let him walk off, okay? So as I move him around here, just as he finishes the turn on the forehand, I'm going to tip his nose towards his hip. So I've got his nose to the left, that means I'm going to move his hip to the right. I keep him relatively straight. When he's moving around fluid, bring his nose over, release, let him out of it. Soften that face. He's really wanting to push with that jaw again. Remember, he struggles a little bit with that on the right side. How much do I mean push? Oh, I can feel about 1 stick of butter. That's 1/4 of a pound. Well, what about on the left? There's no butter, okay? So take his nose slightly to the right, push his hip to the left. As his hip comes around to the left, take his nose slightly to the left, release everything. Let him out of it. Just start getting him to fold and bend there. Take his nose and push it from left. Take his hip, push it to the right. As his hip comes around, straighten his nose out, take it to the right, right there, release it. Ride him forward. Now, another drill that we can do, and one that we know he's going to be good at, is we'll just start asking him to walk straight forward. We'll walk straight forward and keep his nose to the inside. Now, we know he's going to be good at that because he had a bad habit with it. So let's finish by following his nose. Walk back the other way. Take his nose to the left and ask him to walk straight. Use my right leg to guide his forward movement. Then let my right leg off and bring him back. Take my left leg, move him right here. Nice and straight, get that nose soft. Everything's soft in my hands, follow his nose. Right there. So I walk back up the other way, take his nose to the right, keep him straight in my seat and legs, soft in my hands, and bring him around. Now, right there, he almost didn't want to turn, so I really took my left leg to position 1 and said, hey, move over there. Okay, I want to find this horse really walking straight and soft, right here. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Want that nose straight and soft. Straight and soft, right there. Now, with that, I'm going to go back up here and come back. Whoop, we forgot to turn. There we go. I'm going to ride right back up here. And he did the left rein really nice, so I'm going to do it again. I'm going to ride him right towards you, keep his nose soft in my hand, and I'm going to take my right leg and I'm going to move it back behind the back cinch, and there goes his hip in anticipation of that turn on the forehands. Release him, right? Move the shoulders over. Good. So to show you the leg position that I'm using, I'm moving my foot right back here to move that hip, okay? So we're gonna walk away and do the same thing. Same side, I'm not switching sides now because he's doing pretty good. So I'm gonna walk him up here, nose to the left, take my right leg back behind the back cinch, keep him walking forward, but ask that hip to step over, right there. Bring his nose around. Now walk him straight to you with his nose to the right. No, really pushy with his shoulders this side. Get him soft. There's my left leg, and there goes the hip, right over to the right. Let him walk out of it. Soften his nose and follow through. We'll do that side again. Ride him along nice and soft. Move my hip and then my spur. I don't want the shoulders going to the right, just the hip. Just the hip, right there. Now take it all the way around, right there. Good. As I come back again, we're going to do the same thing. One more time, soften, push that hip, right there. Now, let me show you how this starts to work. As I'm riding him here, and I want to take the right hand lead, I lift my inside shoulder, get his nose looking to the right, put my left leg back and push that hip in. I want him to lope off, not trot off. Push that hip in. And again, I want him to lope off, not trot off. Keep that nose nice and soft. Push that hip to the right. Squeeze with both legs. Push that hip to the right. Takes the wrong lead, that's okay, we'll work through that. Soften his nose right here. All of a sudden he's pushing on me. He's wanting to get pushy. He started figuring out what game we're playing and he's getting chargy. So soften his nose, don't quit what you're doing, work through it. Right here, I'm going to use my leg and push him. The same trouble we've had with this horse is all of a sudden popping back up. But now I have body control. I can put my leg anywhere and move his body, right? So what's happening is I get ready to lope off, he's taking his shoulder far to the outside and he thinks he's got it figured out where he's going to go. There we go. Okay, so I kind of had to let him trot into that one. But he shaped up and he pushed that hip over. Turn back around, move that hip to you, and lope. There we go. Look where I'm going. Take his shoulders there with my eyes. Remember the circle exercise we worked on a couple weeks ago? It's the same exercise. Ride him here, the spiral exercise. Ride him here with my eyes. Bring this circle down. Bring his shoulders underneath of me. Okay, take him back out the other way. So we're using the hip control and the shoulder control both to develop a better broke horse. And that's what I want to see. I want to see a horse that's actually following his nose and riding where I ask him to go. Looking where I want to go, steering the way I want to steer, whether it's at a walk, trot, or a lope. Spiral that circle down, make it soft and pretty. Bring those shoulders underneath of me right there. That's what I want, body control. Softness in his nose, softness in his shoulders, softness all the way back through to his hips, and that will in turn give me his ribs. I hope you've enjoyed this show, and really not just this show, but the series, the last 3 shows we've done together here, working on controlling energy and developing body control. I think they are so important to everyday horsemanship, and I want people to get that in their horse where they can actually enjoy the horse they're riding and be safe. Thank you so much. Remember to enjoy your family with your horses, and until next time, may God bless the trails you ride.
Find out more about Ken McNabb horsemanship at kenmcnabb.com.
That one true horse, the perfect partner built to ride. One true horse, a bond that cannot be denied. You would search forever just to have the chance to take a ride.